It looks like the clock says 1 o'clock, and it looks like we're pretty close to everybody here. So I will call to order the meeting. Welcome to the Sun River Service District Managing Board meeting for Thursday, May 15, 2025. Having called to order, we will start as usual with our Pledge of Allegiance. So please stand and address the flag. Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Can I say something real quick?
You may.
We all know what today is, and I would like to.
That's actually going to be my next one.
Well, then I will let, you're in charge. I just want to make sure we.
I'll hand it over, and then I will hand it over to you. So this is National Police Week, but notably this is also Law or Peace Officer Memorial Day. And two of us, at least, were up at a very nice and moving ceremony up in town just a little bit ago. But Randy, I think you wanted to say something or note something here.
I just wanted to, obviously, first off, this week we're thanking everybody who protects and serves us. But more importantly, a moment of silence for all those who've given their lives doing that for us.
Everybody, thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you to those of you currently serving in law enforcement and those of you who have served in the past as well. The board is honored to have everybody here and have your support. All right, we will start with the roll call. Director Hepburn.
Here.
Director Kelly. Here. Director Shoemaker.
Here.
Director Ralston.
Here.
Here is present, so we have a quorum. First item on the agenda is the consent agenda. We will note that items 1A and 1B are not here. We're short the special board meeting minutes and the regular board meeting minutes. Oh, and C, and the joint SSD SROA board meeting minutes. Those will be available next month. So the two things to consider for us are 1D and E. The SROA invoice, which is in the amount of $6,671.31. And we have a loan payment that we need to approve to Zions Bank, and that is in the amount of $726,744.64. So do I have a motion on items 1D and E?
We'll move.
All right, we have a motion and a second to accept the consent agenda. Is there any discussion? If not, I will call for the vote. Director Hepburn?
Yes.
Director Kelly?
Yes.
Director Shoemaker?
Yes.
Director Ralston?
Yep.
Chair votes yes, motion passes. So now we'll move on to old business. Item number 2, the public safety building. PM Nelson is here, and I will let him and Mr. Ralston take it away.
Thank you. Pretty short and sweet report this month. I guess the gate was done yesterday, the security gate, which was good. And there's some training scheduled for the Cook security folks at some point near future. It's good. We're still working through some closeout warranty items with the contractor. And those remain pretty much unchanged, with the exception of they've gotten out and fixed that sinkhole developing at the catch basin out here.
They did do it.
Got that yesterday done, or the day before, I should say. So we're moving up quickly to the June 1 deadline for getting the SROA stuff done for the permit final. And, it's going to be a photo finish, given the fact that we still don't have active dates for the sheet metal and the gate, and waiting for materials to arrive. So
You're pushing Kirby to get those dates and that schedule together.
yeah, knocking on wood there. So anyway, that's that.
I think it's safe to say that we've reminded them that it has to be done, period. Because we're risking fines from SROA if it's not.
Correct. So we are pushing hard on that front. Next week, we'll see some hardware that's been back ordered, kind of tariffy stuff. So the hardware replacement should be here Tuesday. I was just told before the meeting. Our final furniture pieces, Rod's office and a couple other small pieces are supposed to be here next week. We did receive the hard interview furniture, right? Hard interview room furniture is here.
There's furniture in there. I'm not sure what exactly was ordered.
So basically 3 chairs and a
Is it
table.
installed yet?
No.
Very solid stuff with smooth edges, hopefully.
Down though, too, right?
Well, it is, but Chief Lopez didn't want it bolted down, so we don't have anybody to bolt it down if we want to go that route.
What
So
does Chief Rasick want?
I don't know why we wouldn't bolt it down.
I would agree.
neither.
I guess.
But if it's not bolted down.
Probably warrants further discussion.
Yep. So we'll follow up with that. We got somebody that can do that kind of small installation stuff. Bridgetown Builders, who's already done a couple of items out here. And you'll see them part of the request. So, moving on quickly here, we've got a small funding request this month. It's $18,009.18. I think the items listed were noted in the agenda. And, so we'll have to get a motion on that. And then I wanted to discuss a couple of items that have popped up in the last week that didn't make it on the agenda that we can talk through.
Okay, why don't we do the motion first? The motion would be to approve the funding request of, you said it was $18,009.18, correct?
$18,009.18, yes.
I would entertain a motion.
So moved.
All right, we'll go for a motion in a second there. Is there any discussion? If not, I will call for the vote. Director Hepburn,
Yes.
Director Kelly,
Yes.
Director Shoemaker,
Yes.
Director Ralston. Chair votes yes, motion passes. So I think the next thing you wanted to discuss was item C, the conference table cover.
Well, that and there's a couple of other items. 3B Cave, they got back from their vacation and sent me the revised proposal for the monument sign. I believe that I sent a couple of emails around on that. It's $4,295 for the new monument sign revision without the stone base.
As opposed to,
12.5 for a stone base.
so
And that was already in costs, or we hadn't put it in costs?
Had not approved this cost, no. We still had the 12.5 pending for the Kirby team.
it was in your budgets.
Yeah.
It just hasn't been approved yet, but due to cost cutting and so on and so forth, we knocked it down.
Yeah.
$8,000.
Well, I have the graphic in hand, so I can put that on the final Form E that goes to.
Okay.
So we need to get the Form E done and over to SROA before they can put it in. It's gotta be in by June 1, right?
The sign isn't part of our permit, which
Okay.
is good, but it should go in the final Form E, so
Just get it
that
done.
was the last piece I was waiting for the Form E. We're revising the sign that they already approved.
Yeah, since we've already approved spending on signage and we're just waiting on submission, there should be no issue with you going ahead and ordering it, and then whenever the bill comes, just put it in the packet, or if we need to do a special meeting to get it expedited, let us know.
Okay.
And then on the PD conference table cover, I think that is not something that has been approved yet, but it's had the fire cover been approved and then we just didn't do one for PD?
No, they snuck the fire one in on us and we know about it.
Do we have existing uncommitted FF&E at this point?
We can cover it, but it's all going over our original allotment.
Yeah. Well, there's another discussion point coming up too. I think the simple answer on that, unless anybody has any objection, because I think it's a very nice table. It would be nice to not mar it up too much. Would be just dip into the FF&E budget. You should be able to use it, and then that's just $350 less that is going to come out of a committed cost that's going to come back. Do you want to go on to the next one? That's the more fun one.
Yeah, and I guess the other one was in our discussions with the Kirby team, they did not get the gate operators ordered for the gate operators from the cars. So, they gave me the quote. I can go direct. It's $1,246 for six remotes and a receiver at each gate. So that we don't have the issue of cars sliding into the gate in the ice.
Yeah, and, do you have funding somewhere to cover that, or do we have to approve the 1,000 as an uncommitted overage?
I can use, we've still got 5,000 or so in our contingency, so,
Yeah, so I think you're fine on that as well.
okay. Right, I just wanted to bring these up so we can get them ordered.
It's a must have.
Yeah.
A lot of money.
And then and then let's talk about some of I think you're calling them final construction costs, but let's talk about some of the stuff that's still rolling in. So and I'll start with a short summary. We're done with the building. The building was finished on time. We continue to see bills rolling in and we're trying to sweep them in, figuring out if it's work that was done and was billed this year, it needs to be paid this year. There is some work that was deferred for next year that we know needs to be done. And I think you're also going to say that there was, after inspections by OSHA and the fire marshal, there's some additional work that they're recommending is probably the wrong word, requiring that we need to address and put in. So we've got floor sweepings of bills that are still rolling, and then there's some additional work that's being required to be done. And that's gonna come up in some new business as well, in terms of some potential reserve or whatever fund transfers that we want to do. But why don't you give us a summary of where we are on that?
Well, the big one is the final 3 potential change orders for the Kirby team as they came in to close out. We've got $327,690.01 of change orders that we had reviewed by the KMB team as well as myself, and that's where we're at with the PCOs. So that'll be the big one to close the Kirby guys out.
And then there's retainage that they have, and that's to the amount of $750,000, right?
Yeah, 745,000.
So the retainage we have in the budget, the 320 whatever, is technically not in the budget. Now, some of the other work that's going to go on, and I thought there were 1 or 2 items in the PCOs, although maybe you've resolved them all. Some of this money that we're going to be spending over the next, I'm going to say 6 to 9 months, to kind of wrap up all the loose ends, is money that we're going to try and claw back from various areas. And there's some additional money that we've already paid that we're going to be trying to get back as well, like for the air barrier. And so there are some bills that we will be paying this year, and we're going to be working to try and reclaim some of that money as we do the final wrap-ups with the various constituencies. Is that a fair statement?
Correct. I'm still waiting for the final job cost report from the Kirby teams that told us what we're spending to date. But the first step was the PCOs, and then on. And there's still a warranty work going on, like the at bay exhaust, which we don't have budget on yet. So we just know that it's broken, and to fix it, we have to revise the system.
Mm-hmm. But so again, that might be an example of something that we pay for, but then is regarded as warranty work, and we manage to claw back.
Right.
So I was actually at county, this week for various reasons, but I did have a conversation with, some of the various players up there saying there's gonna be a lot of money coming in and going out over the next couple of months. I'll just say none of them appear to be concerned about it. They view this as pretty normal facilities enhancement type of things that are going on. Um, the things that will come in front of this board, one, there's the 300 and some in bills, and you can give us the exact number that we need to motion to move into committed costs. There is then also bills that we need to pay this year, and that will come up as we start to talk about fund transfers and one final budget adjustment for the year. And then we should be kind of getting a periodic report as we move into the next fiscal year on some of the money that we have recovered over this. Is that fair? Okay. There was a high bit rate communication going on. Did everybody catch what's in front of us?
Yes. I think there's some missing information.
Well, ask for the information that you would like.
I guess my concern is that it appears each week that, and I understand the change orders are coming, we're going back in time here on a lot of this stuff. But are these pretty solid numbers, Doug, that we're talking about here?
The
Right?
PCOs, yes,
Yes.
they're fully vetted with.
Let me talk to Doug. I wanna have Doug, please.
Yeah.
Sorry.
And they're solid.
Right,
And what past these numbers, where do we go from here?
we're not
Okay,
with Kirby.
not with
Gotta
Kirby, not with Kirby
We've
yet.
got to close them out.
Yeah,
Yeah, now the projects that are still outstanding, there's money associated with those, and we haven't committed that for vendors. Certain things.
yes.
There's
That they
quite-
keep coming. I get that. It just seems like it's been kind of a nebulous number floating around. And now I just want to make sure that that's where we're going with this. Is we're close, but still not all the way there.
My final job cost report from them will capture everything to date and will allow me to assimilate what's left in contingency for the contractor or not.
Yeah, and I get this part. It's just, I'm just curious as to how much more is potentially floating out there, these nebulous numbers.
The Kirby guys,
Not the Kirby guys, I get
Oh.
that.
well, we don't have hard costs for, but I did some exposure reporting, so it's 300.
Ballpark that.
Yeah. Work to do. I mean, the south apron is a big one. Getting the floor done in the app bay, that's a big one. Bigger, 30 to 50K just to do that floor. There's a couple we have to do, like the EMS decon room needs to get done right away because that's a OSHA issue.
The exhaust intake.
That's a warranty item right now, but it's also going to be provide scope that we got.
I just want to feel comfortable knowing where we're going.
That's the big one for me that went outstanding there. And then again, fixing the HVAC on the remodel side is also out there, but I don't have a ROM number in my hands for any of those, or those two, I should say.
There's a couple of things that as we've been having these discussions in the building meetings, there's a couple of things where it's just like, yeah, we said that we wanted to do that. We don't have the money. We might have the money later, and it's not a critical item. We can defer it. Now, it's not a critical item, then becomes an arguable thing. There's a steam shower retro that still needs to be done in that bay. I'm gonna say, we don't view it as critical. There might be other people in the building that think that it's a critical item. I'd almost throw the South Bay apron up on there too. It's not necessarily a critical item. It's not stopping operations, but we are creating Lake Sun River every time water flows out on that pad. And so there's a bunch of stuff that we need to hash through. There's just a limited amount of money that we've honestly got that we can use to address it until the next property tax thing comes in, and even that's not going to help a lot. So really what we're doing on this building, not surprising, but really what we're doing on this building is gonna drag out for, couple years potentially, before we wrap everything up. And that's gonna go beyond, obviously Doug can be around to answer questions and, obviously Director Ralston, we know where he lives and what he drinks. And so, we can get some expertise out of this. But the board is gonna have to carry this forward without some of the expertise that we've relied on so far in the building.
So if I'm understanding what you're saying, we can push off some of these expenses, the critical stuff we have to do. Okay. We have the option of pushing off some of these
Mhm.
hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Yeah, it's,
And there is, Mindy has done some projections that shows what our interest money is gonna be at, not into 2032. And it's still very significant. And so, we're still under budget in terms of the interest money being used as well. But we need to decide exactly where we are once Doug gets his numbers, the Mindy gets able to get her numbers together, then we put the two together and we'll be able to project exactly what we're gonna have, then plan when to do which project.
That's until something comes up that we have not anticipated that we've got to come.
Well, thus far, we think we've pretty much anticipated everything we gotta do at that point.
Right.
Mindy, you were gonna say something?
Yeah, and I want clarification because in the packet, there's two documents. There's one for this fiscal year for year-end construction costs that Doug had. So that's 2D1. And then I put those numbers into what our current budget is. And so that's where the $376,485 that's in red and that's circled, that's how much above we're going to be going above the budget after we've already done that one budget adjustment just a few weeks ago. Now with his projected cost of what is going to be coming in through June 30th, that's how much more we're over. And so I guess I just want to make sure, Doug, you're aware that we can't, once the budget's set and June 18th, we are on I'm on the schedule to go to the commissioners, which Doug, I'd really like to have you there to explain because I don't understand like all the, parts as to what's creating now another reason for more funds needing to be adjusted to explain that. But we can't go over these numbers or else that would be in our audit. So Doug, I just want to make sure that whatever numbers you put in for that year-end projection for this fiscal year through June 30th, that's all that's going to be spent. Is that correct?
Correct. Yeah, that was
Okay.
the one that I sent you earlier last week.
Yep.
Yeah.
So right now the project is, when we'll talk about this further on a new business, but there's a significant cost that we need to gather, but then that has no impact on what happens after July 1. I've already submitted that budget and we can make an adjustment later. So Doug, I don't know if it'd be helpful to create some sort of a list or a breakdown saying, okay, these are the things that are still coming in through June 30th. And then this is everything for after July 1.
Yeah, that's easy one for me to do. Basically, our committed costs are relevant and already published in one of my reports.
so basically, but I wanna tag on to where, so basically the 356,948 is that's gonna be the max of committed costs and bills that we are getting over and above what we've already committed. This calendar or this calendar fiscal year, or on this fiscal calendar, because if another bill comes in and says, oh yeah, we forgot about this, we need to pay it, we're not gonna have a chance to adjust the budget. And then that flags us on the audit. So, is this the final number that we're gonna see through June 30?
Correct. And that includes these PCOs that we have described earlier.
And Jim, that's why I included two documents. I have the one that's named with Doug and the one that's named with Mindy, because there was some things between me giving him that report to reconcile to that came through. So that second report that has me it's really a difference of 376 because the cost that came in.
So you've got a 376,485 is what you're saying is what we're driving, right?
Right. That's how much over budget we're going to be through June 30th to take for the budget adjustment. And I would love to like throw, I don't know, an extra 25 grand or something, make it a solid 400 or 500,000 just to give us that little bit of buffer. So we don't go over, like we're not, I mean, we don't have any room to wiggle at that 376. So we could talk about that later, but I just want to confirm with Doug that those are the numbers that he's going by through June 30th. And then we can always do another adjustment next fiscal year as things come in and we get it flushed out. The problem is that when we got all that money, the $18 million, and we got the interest, we weren't thinking about at the time that not only are we going to be spending $18 million really fast for the building, but we're also going to be spending 2 or a little over 2 for a loan payment during that time. So our cash balances have been really drawn at this point for that.
Right. And this is, and you know, well, okay, actually, no, I'll wait until the other line item to say it. But what's in front of us is, so give us the number, Doug, that we need to put into committed costs of work that's already been done. What's that exact number?
The 327, 690 and a penny KNCC. Critical. Getting the EMS, I've just thrown a ROM at that one. I don't have hard costs from a vendor yet. So, I mean, I think my total request for this month was 357, 690.
So 357, 690 is what is what we're looking to move to committed costs.
Right.
All right, so we would need a motion to move $357,690 from uncommitted to committed costs. I would entertain a motion if anybody would like to submit it.
Oh, well, so move. Question though from Mindy, didn't you say you wanted to make that number larger?
No, that's a budget adjustment.
Oh, okay.
Because there are what Doug's saying is there's some additional estimates that still need to roll in that we're gonna need to approve next month.
Yeah, I do so move.
Yeah.
We do need to do this.
And I'm sorry, Jim, just to clarify then, so then what you're deciding now is just for Doug's budget, just to be like, yep, we'll spend another $356,000.
Yes, we're gonna talk about what we wanna do in the new business agenda item.
It needs to be paid before the year end.
That's. Well, I'd second that motion.
Right.
39001.
All right, so we have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion?
Yeah, just to be clear, this amount is the documented amount KNCC Kirby has for change orders and does not include some of the things that we could put off for later.
Correct.
That is correct.
Okay.
All right, if there's no further discussion, I'll call for the vote. Director Hepburn,
Yes.
Director Kelly,
Yes.
Director Shoemaker,
Yes.
Director Ralston.
Yeah.
Chair votes yes, motion passes. Yeah, is there any other discussion that we want to have on construction, Doug?
Not for me.
Okay. Then we will move on to item 3 in old business, which is the motion to approve the 2025 to 2029 SSD strategic plan. I will turn it over to Director Shoemaker, but I will note that you have the final strategic plan in your board packet. Truly.
Something to put you to sleep at night, but anyway, there was no changes since I submitted the proposed one, other than some minor typos or whatever. And so hopefully you read it.
Did they disappear?
They disappeared. Is it just you and me, Bill?
I guess.
Oh, no.
You can let Brittany know.
Yes, I'm texting her. Oh, it's on this phone. Okay, hold on. Oh, there she goes.
It went off for some reason. I don't know.
Sorry. While you were gone, we had are we still recording? Yeah, we're still recording. While you were gone, we had a motion and a second to approve the strategic plan. So, Bill, are there any discussion items you'd like to do with that?
No, yeah, other than thanking Director Shoemaker for a long, painful process that is also very necessary. So, job well done, John.
Yes. All right, so, calling for the vote, Director Hepburn,
Yes,
Director Kelly,
yes.
Director Shoemaker,
Yes.
Director Ralston.
Yes, and ditto what Bill said.
Yeah.
Thanks a lot for taking that.
Double distance. Yeah.
Chair votes yes, motion passes. Yeah, a little bit different than the SRO strategic plan, but, you know, you have a,
Yes,
It's just a long drawn.
they're critical to have.
yes.
They're not fun to do, but they're critical to have.
And then on to item 4, update on the reserve study, with public safety building costs. So to reserve study, John and John, I will hand it over to you because I think the two of you have been focused on this.
Reserve study.
Reserve study.
Wake up. I was yapping with him. As far as the reserve study goes, it's basically on hold until we can get all these numbers together. Mindy's still working on hers, and hopefully at the year end of this, she'll be able to know just where she's at. Doug is still waiting on the final job cost report back from Kirby. So we've got Mindy's reports going, we've got Doug's numbers going. I put together a rough spreadsheet about a month ago that is, right now, it's a very, very simple form, and I'm sure as this thing gets completed, Mindy will be adding and deleting stuff to this form. But the idea is if we take Doug's numbers, put them in, we take Mindy's numbers, put them into this form, and then we take Mindy's projections for what interest income is going to be and money coming in from the rest of the loan proceeds through 2032, and then it gives us a possible reserve fund balance at the end of those times. Those are the numbers that CERTA is waiting for to do their reserve study. They cannot complete it until they have actual idea of what the funds are going to be that we have. And then we can determine, are we in trouble? Do we need to put in more? Do we need to balance things? But until we get those numbers and we can fill this out, we're on hold.
I mean, you know, it depends on how you define trouble. I mean, if you're chest deep in boiling water, is that trouble or is that an inconvenience? I mean, it's not trouble. I'm nervous until we see the results.
Exactly.
Or more to the point, I know we are in trouble, because there are very large bills out there, over the long term, and we have to figure out how we're gonna pay for them. That could be no more trouble than we've been in the past with Fund 716 and the equipment reserves, where we know that there's very large bills out and we're trying to figure out how to pay for them. But over the next 5 years, it looks good. Or are we going to continue to see more maintenance or other attention grabbing items on the building that we're going to need to pay for early, that frankly is going to start to endanger operations if we're not careful. So I'm not complaining that it's not done. I recognize that there are several things that we still need to pull together and get done and move in. I'll just continue my own personal antacid bill while we wait for everything to happen.
Well, it's frustrating, but it's what it is.
Yeah.
You know, and we can't put this together and give accurate numbers to CERTA until these projects are done and we can fill this thing in accurately. Otherwise, we're going to get something back that's not going to be accurate.
I recall a time in my past when I had one of my management looking at me and saying, you don't know whether you can tell me whether we're going to make or lose $1 billion on this product in this calendar year, and that makes me unhappy. And I said, well, then remain unhappy, sir. So,
well, hopefully this spreadsheet that I put together also allows for the insertion of future projects for the building that we need to do, so we can determine when the interest money and the loan proceeds are in there that we can afford to do them. And then you put those in, and at the end of the day, you've got reserves left over.
Okay. Any further updates on that? If not, we will move on to item number 5 on the SSD nominating committee process. I'll turn it over to Director Alston.
Okay, well, we are moving forward with that. Let me grab. Calendar. We have 5 applications in past the deadline, as of the deadline. Very, very strong candidates. We don't see any major issues or conflicts at this point. We had a meeting this morning with the SSD chair to determine what his feelings of needs and personality traits, skills, things like that, that we should consider when we're reviewing these applications. The schedule has been put together. We went through that, I think, last time. We'll be holding our interviews on the 9th and 10th of June, making our selections by the 10th. And then bringing them to the board to tell you these are who we're recommending. And you can say if you have any issues at that point. Mindy will then make recommendations to the county. There will be a background investigation done in that timeframe. I don't think we'll be doing backgrounds on any existing SSD members that are re-upping. We'll talk to Pete about how he feels about that. And then announcement to the county approves, and then the new board members will be sworn in September.
And 2 points of clarity. So you will let us know what you are recommending to the county, but the recommendation actually goes directly to the county.
Right.
That gives us an opportunity, and future boards an opportunity, to comment on the recommendations if we have questions or concerns. But the county is the receiver of the recommendation and the ultimate decision maker.
The key word is comment.
Yes.
And
We
we will make the recommendation to the county. When we may not take your comments under consideration, but we will certainly look at any of them seriously.
I just meant it's basically a parallel path. The nominating committee is an independent committee and makes its recommendations to the county. This board is the managing board. In each year of the process, will know who's getting recommended to the county. This board has then the opportunity to submit any additional information to the county. But the nominating committee's decision is final, and the county's decision is final based on all the information that they receive. So in a smooth year, the nominating committee recommends it. We're all happy about it, and the decision is easy. If there was ever some sort of consternation, then we get to duke it out in front of the county, which they really so love. And then
we're also feeling our way out with this. This is the first year we've actually done this ourselves. And so we're trying to vet the process to make sure that it's going to work right. It's going to go smooth and be legal without complaint.
Yeah. And then on backgrounds, I mean, you can express your concern to the board that you expressed to me, and this solution that we're running on that.
Well, there has been some discussion regarding the background. It is my understanding that none of the current board members would be subject to this background. There was some concern. It is my recommendation that we do not use current police personnel to conduct these investigations, or I'm sorry, these backgrounds. We do have some vendors that I would recommend that we stick to. And I would also like, if possible, some direction on to background investigations have different degrees. I don't think that we need to dig terribly deep. I think that as long as we can speak to the individual, as a whole, I think that would just be fine. And I think that there are two, and maybe this is a discussion to have with the nominating committee, as to how we're going to pay these background investigators.
You're scheduled to meet with us the 28th of this month, I think, to go over that and some other things too. But yeah, I would expect SSD is going to You can come up with the funds to take care of it.
I mean, fuck, Jim. I think the SSD is fine paying for the background and paying an external contractor to do it. It would be tough on the police department. They have to bear this internally in a variety of ways. I just think it would be a bad idea.
Has the nominating committee decided that they need a full background versus
No.
such as a
Well,
PBI?
you
Or-
do not need a full background.
I was gonna say, I don't
If
think
it
we
occurs
do.
at one, then if something pops up, then.
But if
They may dig in
it
deeper.
comes up, then you look further.
Right.
Yeah, we don't need to be digging into browser history.
I
So
was gonna say, no, I'm like,
is this,
I get a preliminary background investigation with the criminal history and all the other stuff, but
Yeah.
beyond that,
right.
I don't think we need to go out and start knocking on doors.
So with that in mind, we probably are going to want to start these backgrounds possibly before the next board meeting. So is the amount going to be under $5,000 for, say, 3 of these?
I would think so, yes.
for a PBI, I know it's under that.
Yes.
We're not, so we don't need to bring it to
I
the,
would, you know what, I would think that it's not gonna be more than a couple hours per investigation, and those that we currently contract with are right in the area of about $65 an hour.
so we don't need to make a board motion. We could just do it.
Yeah, Vindy can pay for it.
Great.
Okay.
Mindy.
Not out of
Thank you.
717, we're already hammered on.
That's what it's going to be.
All right, additional questions for Director Ralston on the nominating committee process? It's fun to feel out new processes. I think this one's going.
Yeah, it is. We're, like I said, we're gonna meet on the 28th to kind of look at, we want to talk to Pete about the backgrounds. And we want to vet our questions that we have to ask in the interviews. Make sure that we're all in agreement with it.
Maybe turn them down a little bit too.
Oh, yeah, we've got a bunch. Well, I think 5 is plenty.
All right, we can move on to new business. We got monthly chief and administrators reports. Oh, this is fair. We do a round robin, so somehow the new guy came up on the first on the round robin. So you don't have a lot to follow along, but we will turn it over to Chief Radzik.
We'll blame Mindy.
To his update.
And you guys first, many of you in the room know how near and dear to my heart, the police officer memorial day is, so thank you for acknowledging that. As you can see, the calls for service, down over this time, last year, totally. And of the 24 investigations outside of Sun River, I don't think that is, unusual. The highlights for the police department, we got the lateral police officer Allen from the Washington County Sheriff's Department. She started April 16th. She's making her way through field training. She's doing excellent, and anticipate having her released and working on her own, likely before the 1st of June. Officer Wilson has resigned and is now working up at the Police Department. We hired the new administrative assistant, Michelle, who is a blessing. She is feeling her way into her roles and assignments and is doing fantastic. I'm thankful to have her. We did hire a new police chief, so thank you for that. And we are making our way, as everybody in the room is aware, staffing at our police department and most police departments is a concern. I've got 2 lateral candidates that are currently in backgrounds. I have a chief's interview with one of them tomorrow. A 3rd candidate was disqualified. And in addition, we have 2 new applicants, lateral applicants, that will be interviewed tomorrow.
So what's the current open? I know that it might change in a couple of weeks, but
Correct. Our
what?
current staffing sits at 9 right now, which means we have 3 openings. And again, as you stated, that's likely to change in a few weeks.
Okay.
I would like to thank Acting Captain Van Meter. We got through our accreditation, our re-accreditation. So that is good for 3 years. And as we move forward into the summertime, update on our bike patrol. We have 6 in line for this summer. And they will receive their training beginning this next weekend. They will get their 4 days of training and orientation with all the bikes tuned up, and we hope to have them out and working right around the 1st of June. Then lastly, the last item of note, we got through, it's computer stuff, compliance. There was an audit for our CGIS and our NIBRS, which is crime reporting technology that the police department is required. We successfully passed all of those. As far as operations, there was nothing to report. Community events, also nothing to report.
Questions for Chief Rassick?
Comment. So, thank you again, Chief, for being here. Appreciate it. In your notes for, sorry, gotta go back, with calls for service. Can we please go back to delineating, especially the calls for service in Caldera, Crosswater? There's a purpose behind it. I know.
Good idea.
Before we started doing it, and then we just went for calls for service outside. So I want to go back to doing calls for service. You don't need to report it on your comparison charts, but just weekly, or not, I mean, excuse me, a monthly meeting update, that's all.
Just more specifics into the type of calls and number of calls at each of the locations.
Just specific for that location.
Okay.
In other words, especially for Caldera, Vanderbilt Ranch, Crosswater.
What about business?
What about business?
Sorry, business park.
Okay, thank you.
That's on my list.
I've heard of it.
We can give you the list.
And is, you want to consult.
No, just calls for service.
You've been trying to get that for a while.
I will note, because some of you are smarter than to show up for the budget discussion with the county, but the county did specifically ask what type of expansion plans or considerations that we had.
Well, it's in the strategic plan, so
Yeah.
there you go.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
There's no secret anymore.
the non-politician in the room gave a very political answer, but still stated the obvious.
Yes.
Could I add that obviously SROA is kind of very interested, and some people are concerned about it. Because understandably, they don't want to lose enforcement in some river proper if we expand, so just something.
That's all
I
part
know
of
that.
the.
I'm just bringing it out for the public record.
Yeah.
I know you know that.
It'll be a tater. I was gonna say, we will continue to talk this particular warm spud from hand to hand.
Yes.
And go forward on that. Additional questions for Chief Rassick?
I'd just like to thank you for being here. It's been 5 months. This has been going on and now you're sitting there.
Happy to be here.
Thank you.
And you survived your first report. Congratulations.
Made it. Thank you.
All right, next will be Deputy Chief Bjorvik. It was noted yesterday, it was yesterday, right? Yeah, that Chief Booth was taking vacation before fire season started, and the first thing that I thought was, well, what about Rod?
That was a couple weeks ago. Getting mine in early. So unlike Chief Racick, this is not my first board report. Done a couple, but probably not gonna be very good because I haven't done it for a while. You know, you an uber professional normally giving the fire department report for you, so, but I'll do the best I can. So starting with our emergency response stats, you guys can see, total monthly calls were down a little bit this year from last. And that's kind of a trend that just been stretching out, over the course of this year so far. And I think that's,
It's almost getting curious.
huh?
It's almost getting curious, like what's going on that,
Yeah, and I don't know. I think part of it, is if you look at our mutual aid given, obviously that's looks a little bit more like, it normally would, right? Because we had a pretty good stretch when we were busy where we were receiving more mutual aid than we were given, right? And that was an anomaly. That's never that way, but it was that way for quite a while. But I think, for whatever reason, that trend's reversed a little bit and we've just picked up a little bit more, helping folks out. outside of our borders. So the overall, I just don't feel like there's, maybe I'm wrong. There's just not an abundance of people here yet. Right? I mean, it didn't feel like to me, during like spring break when I was around, it didn't seem crazy busy, right? So, and you guys know, we're gonna, as long as people show up and there's ignitions, we're gonna get a lot busier as we move, into summer, right? And we get toward the end of June, when we typically have more folks here. So, but for now, call volume is down from last year. Happier though, info, if you look at, they're still maintaining pretty solid turnout times. The response time is a little longer and than 24, but I think that's evolving, that correlates with the mutual aid stuff, right? Because it doesn't go in and weed out Sun River response versus a response to the ASA or deep into the bowels of Lapine, right? So that response time encompasses all that travel. So on another happy note, which always makes me pleased, is their back in service time. They've got that cut pretty good, right? So especially with our staffing, once they're committed, once they can come back in service, pick up next calls that happen, the quicker they can be, the happier I am. So, but other than that, that's kind of it in a nutshell. You guys have any questions on that bit? Okay. All right. The rest of the update here, administrative update, obviously, union negotiations on the CBA are ongoing. I'm not certain, I'm not involved directly with those, so I think they have another session coming up. I don't know, Mindy, you probably have a better idea as to timing, but there's fairly soon, I think another week or so, next week maybe. We'll have another session. Fire chief attended the OFCA conference in Bend. They actually came to work here and stuff, but we both attended the fire marshal's fire defense board chief meeting and training to start that conference, which was decent. We have, there's a couple items I didn't get on this. I was being badgered and hurried to complete this because I was probably dragging my feet when I first got tapped with it. So being honest. We have, I've got a meeting with our DPSST district liaison officer next week, next Friday, to do our maintenance recertification review to maintain our accreditation agreement with DPSST. And then tomorrow, I'm going to spend the entire day in Prineville. Close, shorter drive.
Shorter drive, yeah.
Balance out. Assistant Crook County Fire and Rescue with a battalion chief assessment to fill an open vacancy for them tomorrow. Operations update. I think the EMS recertification is pretty well finished. I was probably one of the last ones, and mine's done and been accepted. So that should be pretty well wrapped up. We completed all of our RT-130 wildland fire training last month, and we moved on to more operational maintenance type training on the wildland stuff. New SCBAs, we did receive the in-service training on those a week ago. And those should be in service on the apparatus this afternoon. We should have that finished up. I'm excited for that. And that's about it for there. Community events, the wildfire preparedness fair that was mentioned in the last meeting was held. Some of you were there, some not, but pretty successful, I think.
That was a pretty good
It was
course.
pretty well attended, I thought. For a typical Sun River event, they're not all that good, right? As far as attendance. So I think that went well. It was a good thing, and it'll be a nice follow-up next season, maybe enhance that, maybe pull some more folks. So with that, that is my report. If somebody's got questions, I threw in some added, if you have questions on You, PC Outlook that or season Outlook that I provided you. Really comment on it. It's kind of self-explanatory. But happy to answer any questions if you have them.
Curious as to any good news or bad news from any of the controlled burns that are going on right now.
I think everything's been good, right? I mean, we haven't been out, haven't got anybody out yet. We have several people that should and need to, as far as a training aspect. I also like being able to field folks. Is that just another resource for them and allows them a little more flexibility in their operations? But it sounds like, from what I've heard, everything's going well. I mean, there's been some smoke intrusions, but I don't think it's really been very bad. Right? And it sounds like with the conditions they have, their fire effects have been very good and they're meeting their objectives. So.
Yeah, there were some comments the other day at county on because they got a grant or some type of, God almighty okey doke on, well, you can be a smoke awareness county and we can test how well the smoke awareness is working. And in the last couple of years that they've had it, there really hasn't been a lot of smoke intrusion, at least in the populated areas, to really test it out.
Or no, depending on the map and what happens the rest of the spring. They're pretty aggressive this year with their RX plans, right?
Yeah.
So we'll see, right? I think for us here, even the locations that they're burning, in those Thor units is a benefit for this community too, to get that country turned black. Because that's just kind of lies north of kind of a problematic area, I guess you would call it, as far as intentional emissions during fire season. And my thought process is, those don't lie crazy far away. And anytime that you can turn some of that country black and remove some of that fuel, create some buffers just to knock the punch out of stuff that may initiate to the southeast, that's a win, right? Just slowing things down, so. Yeah.
They're clearing out China Hat. There's cars all parked along China Road now. They've been towed out. Is that pretty much cleaned up now?
From what I heard, I think all the folks are out of there, but I think the mess it's gonna take a while.
So is that displacement, is that affecting us?
As that was ongoing, we had a fire from an encampment off the 9710 road. So which is a little northeast of here, right? And 9710 is the road to the east, about mid-grade on Lava Butte as you're headed north. Just back in there, had a half-acre fire. It was attributed to like a campsite in there, an abandoned campfire. So even when China Hat was in its previous form, you'd be surprised at the amount of folks that were camping off of like 9710 and be from there in closer towards town, towards China Hat. I know a lot more folks are showing up outside of Lapine. I think we'll have some more in our neck of the woods as well, but I think this is not quite as palatable maybe as you go into Lapine, just due to travel times for those folks getting back into town to get whatever they're going to get. But I would assume that we're going to have more folks in the woods around us.
All right. Additional questions for Chief Yorvik?
Chief, did you want to mention the OSFM grant?
Oh, well, I didn't do it, so I wasn't going to mention it. I didn't want to take, steal somebody else's thunder. We did apply for the staffing grant that we've had previously, and we're awarded 13, I don't know the figure, under 14,000, but 13 something for additional staffing to cover additional staffing during the summer. So the last grant took us a day or two to get through that. But we'll be a little more creative with that and make sure that we spend that. You have to spend it this year, right? We can't continue to milk that
We
out.
can't drag it out like we've done on previous ones.
No.
Okay, cool. Other additional questions? If not, we will turn it over to administration. I'll turn it to Administrator Holliday and Administrator Phobie to take us through.
Yes, thank you, Chair. And all of you have met Brittany. She was hired on the same day as Michelle and Stephanie, and she's just hit the ground running and doing a great job. So very happy to have her on board. She's also really helped with the social media presence for fire and police the last couple weeks, and hope to explore that more as part of her duties as well. So thank you, Brittany, for all that you're doing and covering when I leave. Real quick, it's just been busy as far as budget season. Got that to the county. We had our meeting yesterday. They approved the budget for next fiscal year, so that's great. Also got approval for the 717 budget adjustment, but we'll be going to the county again on June 18th for the second round of that. And then got approval from the county as well for the new 25-26 fee schedule, which will go into effect July 1st. As you can see, just working with Doug as far as reconciling his numbers to mine for the construction project, and working on the year-end financial projections, which we'll go through here in just a few minutes. With that wildfire grant, Heather and I attended a Zoom wildfire, that administration of that grant. There's certain requirements, so we were able to attend that and get an idea of what we need to be doing to make sure we're in compliance with that. And then working on the budget adjustments. HR, lots of onboarding these last couple weeks, so that's been great having that new staff coming on board, and then taking part in labor negotiations. We'll talk about the police contract here in new business here pretty soon, and then fire, I believe they meet towards the end of next week. Operations, so website, social media updates, like I've been mentioning, Brittany's been really helping with that. Nominating committee, just working with John and that team to get everything ready for a new round of interviews for new board members. The reserve study submission, like John said, just kind of waiting to work out these numbers in order to submit to them so they can finish up that reserve study. And then community engagement, I spoke with Chief Boos and Chief Rassick about relaunching Chat with the Chief, that coffee time. So that's going to start again on June 11th, and it'll be the second Wednesday of every month at Brood Awakenings. And so we put that information out in the scene. And then lastly, we celebrated Administrative Professionals Day. So all of us celebrated Dina, Brittany, Heather, and Michelle. We did kind of a lunch and they all got treats. And I think that was Brittany and Michelle's second day on the job. So I think we won them over quickly with all of that. So anyway, it was nice to celebrate them and acknowledge all their hard work. So with that, that's the end of my report, unless anybody has any questions.
Questions for Administrator Holliday?
Well, from the looks of the photo, it looks like you guys are enjoying that little break room you've got. And I remember it was a big deal to get an oven in there, and I'm just wondering, has anybody actually used it?
Yeah, in fact, Dana has been, well, okay, so John, it's a little difficult. So Dana's been using it. I used it once, but the problem is that it's still, when the guys get a call, it cuts it off. And so, as far as that safety measure, so there was one time I think I was making sourdough and it literally was taking forever for it to cook, and I didn't realize that still was happening. So it's pretty
So
funny.
that
Yeah.
oven got put on the safety?
Yes, the gas in the break room is on the safety, and per my understanding, that is now a feature, not a bug.
Yeah.
So anyway, so now it's just an added thing to the whole history of that oven.
So if the cookies are a little chewy, you know that the fire was out on a call.
That's what we're gonna say, at least.
Yeah. All right, other questions? Okay, if not, we will move forward. We're to item 7. And this is, we need somebody's scrawl on a very important document. I'll turn it over to Mindy and Chief Rassick to discuss. Please.
Yeah, so I'm sorry, Chief, I don't know, did you want to take it?
I certainly can. Most of this was ironed out prior to my arrival.
Yep.
And there was some discussion with council regarding each of these items. The short of it is, she said that, let's just go with this. There's nothing on this that is worth halting the process.
Okay. So just as a description, this is a formal agreement with the police labor union to delay negotiations by 6 months. We are providing them a 3% salary adjustment. And then if any negotiations would lead to a larger number, that would be retroactive. But it's just requiring the chair's signature on this, and as well as the association. So we can answer any questions if there are any. If not, I would entertain a motion to let me apply pen to paper.
I'll make the motion.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? If not, well, actually, just as a note, the 3% was actually in our budget for Fund 715. So they were covered at least for 6 months. All right, discussion done. I will call for the vote. Director Hepburn,
Yes.
Director Kelly,
Yes.
Director Shoemaker,
Yes.
Director Ralston. Chair votes yes, motion passes. And I will sign that today. Moving on to item 8. Fund contributions. So this is the continuation of the old business discussion. So there is a need to move at a minimum 375 and change from 715 to 717 this calendar year. There are a significant percentage of other county agencies that are going to do final budget adjustments. I guess it's the final tweak day on it's June what, Mindy? 18th, 28th? 18th. June 18th. So we're gonna be in the mix. That will be going in on that. The question. So we've got really 2 questions in front of us. So this is purely from 715 to 717. 716 does have a minor budget adjustment that needs to be made. And what's the $39, Mindy? It was a.
No,
Did we clear that up?
Yeah, there's no budget adjustment for 716. It's just they charged us shipping when they weren't supposed to. Heather got them to send a check back, and once I deposit that, then it'll balance.
Okay, so 716 is balanced and requires no further adjustments. We've actually already tweaked that once. 717, we have tweaked once to do the last adjustment to pay for the bills that we knew. Now that we have new bills that we know, we need to do an additional adjustment to that, and then that will also require basically a note in 715 that we're moving operations funding to 717. Period. Next sentence, moving on. This gives us an opportunity to now discuss whether we want to, for lack of a better term, make an additional reserve contribution to 717 to get it started next year. And we discussed this a little bit at board last month and said, oh, we should talk about it this month. And then we got our additional news that we've already discussed. So, Mindy, I know you've been looking at this. I've looked at it a little. I don't know if anybody else has. What's your thought on minimum that we should be transferring, and then as a board, we should be discussing, is there more that we should be putting in?
So at a minimum, I would do 400,000, just that way we encompass the extra 376 that we've already discussed and just have a little bit of a buffer. With that loan payment, I mean, there's just there's not enough cash flow there. And then now with the levy coming through, that's really just meant to pay for the loan every year. So this is additional monies that is needed to pay the bills that we won't be seeing until that interest starts to accumulate after a couple of years. So I would say at the minimum, 400,000. This also, I'm guesstimating, gives about 200,000 to start next fiscal year with. But it's just, you know, if we were to draw down that 200,000 to cover that 375, then we wouldn't have anything to start the new fiscal year. And there's still projects from July through November that we're planning on doing. So I was trying not to touch that $250,000 we're estimating to have for next fiscal year, so that we actually have funds there to continue doing those projects that we're going to have to do next year until we get more money in November.
Yeah. So if did everybody catch that? So basically, at a minimum, we would need to transfer about 150,000 because there is a little bit of money left in the account, but that would leave the cupboard totally bare. So the suggestion is, let's transfer at least to cover what we already know plus a little bit, and that would be 400,000. The question is, do we want to do more? Do we want more of a cushion sitting in 717 for some of the other projects that might come up that we would actually want to do next year?
Well, look, and I think it should be asked, so, and as funds come into 717 from loan proceeds, we can pay this back to 715, right?
Yeah, and that's no different than your financials every month for the last 3 years. There's been a line that says due to or from 715, and the same with 716, because 715 is the checking account, right? And so we just keep a journal of who owes which fund money. So instead of, 717 owing, 715 because we're paying bills, now it's going to owe 715 just because we gave it money to make it through. So it's easily trackable. And then that's where I just do the end of the year adjustments to zero that out.
But then the statement is that it's on budget with interest. We're not digging into 715.
It's, and like I said, the brief discussion that I had with the county and the governing and the members of the governing board, we didn't discuss it as a governing board. But the brief discussions that I had with them is that they said it, to their minds, the project is done. Now what you're doing is you're moving into ongoing building maintenance. So, I don't think we need to be weasels about anything where it's a building, it costs money. We're continuing to do work on it. And there's some things that get noted, as any other thing. If a concrete cracks in any building to a point where it's a trip hazard, do you have to fix it?
Right.
Fixes are a little more substantial than that, which is daunting. But I think we're at an understanding that we're just continuing to move forward as a district now.
But it's not a Weasley thing anyway. I mean, we are on budget with the interest, and we're gonna be paying for all these other things that we need to do in the future, soon, out of those funds.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Right.
I should watch my terminology, especially when somebody quotes it back to me after they watch it.
Because it is, I mean, we had over $1 million in interest income, and it looks like we're going to eat about 750,000 of that at this point. So, it's not like it's an extra amount to the taxpayers. It's just going to change that bottom line. We're going to send Justin for that reserve study.
Yeah, and that to me is the painful part, because the number that's still looming in my mind is about $10 million that's going to be due to the building in the next X number of years, next 20 years, that we've got to take care of. I mean, we know the rough approximation on that. Now, at the same time, that's about the same number in the equipment reserve that we have, and we're sitting on 3 million, and we're not nervous about that. But right now, there's a $10 million bill sitting in 717 long term, and we're sitting on a couple 100,000, and that's what that makes me a little more nervous. So thoughts? I always do this exercise where I say something and then I leave a silence and I do a silent Ted count in my head. And if I get to 10 and nobody says anything, then nobody wants to say anything. Usually in 10 seconds, you can fill silence.
Try the,
So what's the number we want to do? Do we want to do 4? I was actually going to suggest 5. And then that would give us probably in the range of about 300 to 350 for beginning capital in 717 next year.
I'd be good with 5 as long as it all pencils out and this form gets filled out and there's reserves left at the end of the day, and we're not taking money out of 715 to pay for the building.
I think that's a worthwhile note, and that helps with my other concern. I think what we note is this is effectively we're moving short-term cash to 715 because we do believe that we're going to claw some of this money back. And so as we get that, we have the option of when to move it back to 715 long term. So this is it's not even really a loan. It's an
Exercise.
exercise. I've had some concerns that this is really not a good time to be moving money out of operations when we've got 2 labor negotiations going on effectively. And I don't want to be, I don't even want anyone to consider that we're trying to hide money in any way, shape or form. 715, 716 and 717 is our full budget. That's the money that we have. That's the money that we want to show the unions in terms of what we have. And then we want to be honest in terms of where is it, how is it being used, and what's our 5 to 7 year projection in terms of what that's costing us. And so that is something that we will continue to be open and honest about as we review it with the unions.
So really this comes into play if this goes to arbitration.
Well, I mean, and not
Potentially.
even,
Yeah.
not even so, because I mean, it's every 3 years, it's gonna happen around the same time. The labor negotiation contract is at July 1, budgets are July 1. So every 3 years, it just happens to be the timing of it. So, and, you know, legal is said it's 2 totally separate things. I mean, you've got union negotiations and you've got the financial diligence and the budgeting process for the district. So.
I think Kim's comment was, it is what it is. I mean, this is just normal operations. Now, it would be something that we would have to talk about if we did go to arbitration. We, of course, would never want to go to arbitration. We want to have light congenial labor negotiations that come to an amicable backslapping conclusion. And I'll just leave it at that. But yes, if there was a need to go into it, we would have to say, yes, this is part of the finances of the district.
I think that just a comment is, I'm with Mindy that it's just the way it is. And the numbers are there. Doesn't matter where you put it, the numbers are there.
That's what I was thinking. I was like,
The numbers are there, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
And I'm more concerned with how it impacts next year, the year after, when the reserve study is taken into account. That's my bigger concern, as opposed to how it impacts labor negotiations. Because I think we need to be paying very close attention to that, as opposed to, well, we still need to take care of this year and get Mindy on board here with her number. And what do you feel about the number, Mindy? 450, 400, 500?
I mean, I don't, it's one of those that I don't want to say it doesn't matter, but it really doesn't, because I mean, if you transfer over 500 and then you decide then you want to pay it back next fiscal year, we can do a budget adjustment for that. So, I mean, it's very fluid wherever you want to put money in the different funds. So.
does this mean if we do the 500, does this mean that we could get that south apron miss fixed earlier?
That's a potential.
That would be something the fire guys would like to see. I'm sure I'd like to see it. It's a mess. And I'd rather not wait until next year. We should need to get that done like.
I don't think we talked about spending that money for this right now.
Well, we're talking 400.
I know, but
300. Now it's going up to 400. Now we got 500. Can we use that?
but we need more.
I don't particularly want to incur any more bills this fiscal year. That I want to continue to sweep the bills that are coming in. There are any OSHA related work, we do need to scope and we need to get that done. The apron is not OSHA related, but I think we can hop on it immediately next year. That's
what I'm saying.
The South apron work is actually in the existing budget. And it might require an adjustment of about 20K to get that done, just because there's some design things that I don't think were incorporated that we assumed we were doing this year, but we should be able to jump on it relatively fast and knock it out. Yes.
That's the whole thing.
To do a budget adjustment, I mean, it's, the process is just, to mark the resolution, to make the expenses approved. And so, I mean, it's pretty normal process, especially when you have a construction project, because we do the best we can to budget, but it's never going to be right. And so, I mean, starting July 1, with the budget we have, and if in August we have to do an adjustment, that's not that big of a deal. So I mean, I'm more conservative when it comes to these kind of matters. So I would rather just, let's do what we need to, right now. And then if next year we need to do another budget adjustment, we can do that.
So your recommendation is for? Let me ask that again, Mindy. I'm not sure. It might have been crosstalk. So your recommendation is 400,000.
My recommendation is $400,000 or $500,000. I just want to make sure that the numbers that we have that are 376,000, as long as those are 100% solid. So my worry is, though, we did an adjustment a month ago and didn't have those numbers. So I worry in a month, when it's too late to do an adjustment, if there's more numbers that have come in. So that's why I would err on the side of caution to doing 500, just in case there's something else that we just didn't know about.
Okay, so I heard 500.
Or 5. Mindy, question for you though. A while back, you gave me a projection of 1.26 million in interest by the year 2032. Are those numbers still good?
I would assume so. I mean, interest rates really haven't changed much. So yeah, I mean, and I can always update that too, especially as we button up the project. I mean, I would love to do a full 7-year projection. Like, okay, where are we at and what's coming in, what's going out for the next 7 years. But yeah, I mean, interest rates haven't changed. So I don't,
The
we're
interest,
still riding on
the interest
that.
we did, yeah, the interest we did in that was conservative. And actually, do you remember what rate we used? I think we used 3.
That's good. Yeah, that's good.
And then we also did an assumption of 3 on the property tax assessment changes. Because remember,
Right.
there's interest, but actually the bulk of the overage that we're getting is we're getting that 3% increment on the 47 cents. And that's over and above what we owe on the loan. And that's the capital, so to speak, that's building, and then the interest that's sitting on top of that. All right, this would require a motion, so we would need a motion to approve the move of $500,000 from Fund 715 to 717 in fiscal year 24-25.
I'd make that motion.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? If not, I will call for the vote. Director Hepburn,
Yes.
Director Kelly,
Yes.
Director Shoemaker,
Yes.
Director Ralston. Chair votes yes, motion passes. That was fun. Okay, on to fiscal year end budget and actuals, which of course are going to change now, Mindy, but they are in your packet as you saw. So I think the main one is, if you look at 717, that big red number becomes a green number now.
Yeah, so in the packet, I've got an overview. And so you'll see 715, we're about $257,000 to the good. 716, there's that $39, but we'll get that check here soon, and then that'll even out and be balanced. And then now 717, I'll start drafting the adjustment. I talked to Dan yesterday at the county. He knows it's coming, so we'll have that for June 18th, and then that should theoretically put it as $125,000 net gain for the end of the fiscal year. And then each of the documents after that just kind of goes into detail. So the one, I mean, we've talked about 716 and 717, 715. I'd love to review just real quick, especially that front, that first page, that working capital first page, and you can see off to the right where those savings are coming in. So it's really, once again, police. And when you go down to the police section, you'll see it's the patrol officer. So it's definitely salary savings due to, them not being able to have a full staffing model. And then you'll see that fire is over. And I talked to Chief Jorvik if he wants to explain that a little bit, because that's the projected. So this isn't right now, it's projected at the end of the year. So admin is projected to be about $23,000 over budget. 30,000 of that's due to the cost of the building on the property insurance schedule that I didn't have in my budget. It was also the 2-month contract for Corey Darling to come and be chief for 2 months. That was a significant cost that wasn't in my contract. And then also I was paying Dana just still out of the SSD admin executive assistant wage while she was covering for Katie. So that's why those overages are there. And then, but you can see this is the first time, I believe, in the history of the district we've ever been below $500,000 as the net surplus at the end of the year. So we really are getting to that nexus where we're going to have to keep an eye on our year-end financials from here on out moving forward. So I don't know if there's any questions. You guys can just scroll through that. And I just did the differences between what we're expecting to spend at the year and what our budget. And you can see there's an automatic rule in there that green is good, red is bad, but unfortunately I didn't get a chance to fix that before I left, and it's on the resources page. So the resources page is backwards. So negatives are good on money coming in, and then positive. So just keep that in mind. So I apologize I didn't get that switched over.
Okay, questions? This is all bookkeeping. The most fascinating part that's come out of this, and I realize in a very geeky way, the most fascinating part of this discussion that at least I've participated in with Dan at county has been that beginning ending networking capital are very fungible numbers, and nobody seems to care. What they really look at is what's the, what was your comparison operations to operations, and then around mid-year is when they'll pick the beginning net numbers, and that's actually that's a moderate financial advantage in ways that are too arcane for me to understand, but it's at least been fascinating to watch the flow go back and forth.
And the auditors really just care about the expenses. Did you go over expenses that was budgeted or not? So yeah, just trying to make sure got the right documentation to make everybody happy, and we're staying within budget.
All right, any additional questions or comments? If not, let us move on to item 10, annual performance review discussion. Typically we do 3 because we have 3 staff members that report to the board. We could do a real quick one for Chief Rassick if we want. Hi, welcome. Yeah. But I think timing wise, I think we can just push a year and probably be okay if that's not objectionable to anybody on the board. So that leaves us Chief Booth and Administrator Holiday. Anybody in particular want to throw up hands? Hey, Mindy, I do appreciate that we're discussing performance reviews in a month where you didn't get the minutes in, but we'll talk about that later.
Duly noted.
Just add it to the list. Add it to the list.
I'm willing to actually take on both of them if that, unless anybody's aching to jump in. I've been asking quite a few of you to do a lot this year, so I'm willing to step up on at the end here.
Well, Jim, back when Bill was chair and I was vice, there was a lot of discussion about how to do these reviews, and And I remember I was perplexed because my first year, I was asked to review the chief of police. And I thought, who am I to review the chief of police at this point? And Bill, and years later, decided it really would be best if the chair and vice chair take on those. They never really got finalized, but Bill, is that how you recall that happening?
Um, that is, and my bias is that performance reviews are, I don't want to say waste of time. It's a little harsh, but um, not always useful. Let's put it that way. So, but I think the board's always found a way to come up with pretty much the most cumbersome way to do them. So the simpler, the better, I think, or at least let's have a discussion on what we really want to see as an end product in these.
So my proposal would be, especially since I've asked Director Shoemaker to give it the office quite a lot this year, I will take the both of them. I will draft a performance review for Administrator Holliday and for Chief Boos. I will forward it out to the members of the board. Then you have you have three options. You can blissfully ignore it, which assumes that which I will assume means that you think I'm brilliant. You will provide comments on various aspects of it, or any of the board members would have the ability to contact me and say, I believe that we should have an executive session on this particular performance review, which we would then schedule and hold. And then based on the outcome of any of that, I would then deliver the reviews. Is that a non-objectionable process to everybody?
Yes.
Sounds good.
All right, that was good. I will find my appropriate inspiration and begin drafting reviews. Where are we? Oh, secure access. Item 11, SSD board secure access discussion. I guess this is me. All right. So a couple things. The intent that we've had, and you can disagree with me if you didn't think that this was the intent, but the intent that we've had is that the board is an oversight board. We're a set of normal citizens, and we should do our best to be treated by normal citizens, other than when we have to convene in a meeting, which would be to say we need to come and knock on the door to be let in. There are a couple of reasons why we might want to partially rethink that. And then I'll throw mine out, and some of you might have some additional reasons. One, we've gotten some questions on the use of the parking lot from our wonderful neighbors, and it's reasonable requests. And one way to alleviate stress in parking would be to, on busy days or potentially busy days, to stick 4 or 5 vehicles in the back lot. That would require us to have access to the back lot. And then because we'd be coming in on the back lot, that would require us to have access to portions of the building. The police side of the building is pretty much a no-go. Even with CJIS certs, we really don't, I think it is in the best interest of the board to not have open access to the police side. And Chief, I don't know if you have an opinion one way or another. I mean, we can knock and come in, but
Again, to comply with CJIS, limiting access is probably the best protocol.
yeah. And I know at least one of us has a current CJIS certification, and even in that situation, I would prefer that person to not have access, but to be invited. So, and I think a couple of you might still have CJIS certs. I don't know.
But the question, in order to have access to the police station freely, and to be able to possibly view screens over people's heads, so on and so forth, we would need to go through a pretty thorough background check for that, correct?
For CJIS complaints, there would be a minor background and a matter of actually passing a test.
Yeah. It's a pretty easy
It's
test.
the release.
I didn't have to do that,
Yeah.
at least when we did that station. So I would agree that
Would
the,
that include the fingerprints too, chief?
I would have to look into that. It may, it's maybe some sort of a background check that would.
It's easiest as back as fingerprints.
Yeah.
but would a board member really want to have free access into the police station? I can see coming in and out of the admin area and the fire area. And using those back parking lots and being able to get back into Mindy's office and all that, but not, I'd draw the line at the cops.
Speaking as somebody with a current siege of cert, no, I would not particularly want access to the police department. And that goes especially double for me since I'm the board chair. It's one thing to have a board member invited or, back there with knowledge, wandering around and saying hi to everybody. It's another thing to have somebody have access on a Saturday and potentially breaking supervisory walls. And I'm just not down with that. So there's that. Now, access to the other side of the building, which would be admin and fire, I'm going to say comes with its own things because there's no doors, from downstairs to upstairs that are locked on that. If we do,
Close to me.
but there's not really. I mean, there's no door from the stairwell all the way up into the living room. I would probably say, again, I would, if we would want board members to have access to the secure side of the building, the admin and the fire side, I would still very much encourage a policy of discretion in terms of business hours only, admin and office area only, upstairs into the living quarters by invitation only.
Correct.
That's Chief. I don't know if you've got an opinion on that.
Sounds reasonable.
Yeah, I mean, so we can get to your office pretty easy, but you're the one that's out of luck on that.
So you're talking about downstairs
Yeah,
or fire,
yeah.
the admin area.
Yeah, and downstairs, the recommendation is, I mean, you'll have secure access, and I don't know I actually don't know how the fobs, how tightly the fobs can be controlled. But I would recommend that if we as board members do, I don't think we need a motion. I think we're basically having a discussion. But if we decide that, yeah, this would, we can have access to that, my recommendation would be business hours only, downstairs only, unless there is a significant reason for us to do that. And if there is a significant reason, that can very easily be covered and documented.
Well, can we even get in if it's outside of business hours?
I mean,
You can't get out.
You can.
yeah, it's like, for instance, yeah, your fob gets you in, whenever, right?
The fobs can be programmed for business hours only, correct?
Heather manages that specifically. I don't know if it can be specific hours.
When we were designing, we
I think
didn't specifically request that, but it should.
We actually have some expertise in the room. Doug, how are yours programmed?
I get it everywhere, but it's from 6 a.m. till 9 at night, 7 days a week.
Perfect, so we can.
Yeah, you can. We'll just set up a separate grouping for board members and you can limit the access and the time on those. And we can also draft just an agreement. I mean, nothing formal, but just saying, okay, when you get this fob or your code, you're signing that you're getting it. And then also these are the rules and
Right.
the areas that you're able to go to. So we can just have something written up and I can just keep that on file.
Yeah. How about access to the gates of the parking area?
Can you program fobs to specific doors?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then John asked the question, Mindy, I'm not sure that you heard it. How about from access to secure parking, the fobs,
All it started from.
yeah, that's really the discussion that we're having is we want the fob to be able to come in. And honestly, I'm just gonna say personally, if I'm coming by and the parking lot is pretty empty, I'm probably still gonna park in front and, I might use the fob to get in rather than forcing Brittany to go run around to let me in. But I'm gonna be doing it during business hours for a business reason. Randy?
Yeah, think it's a great discussion. I think maybe it's one we can probably put on the side to see if this parking issue really becomes more of an issue or not. Maybe we're just talking about something we have to worry about.
Yeah, it's,
I think it's
be
good
good neighbors.
to discuss it. I really want to be good neighbors, but I'm trying to be back to you a good neighbor. I don't care if you park over there unless it's an issue, because there's something big going on. Like we talked about for your events here. I'm more worried about that than the five of you taking parking spots.
I also think that the fact that those folks working up front, then they gotta get up and get us in and if we can agree that limited fob, you're now, as people are coming on, we're having a background done on them anyway, for one thing, which really covers almost all the issues we're talking about. Right there. So at that point, I think this is kind of a moot discussion because anybody coming on the board is gonna have a background. You give them a fob with limited access, not back in the secure area. It takes care of the problem. It's not that we're in here running around showing all our family and friends. And besides, it's documented who's coming in and out because your fob is recorded right then and it's limited. So let's be big kids in the room and
Be big kids in the room and let's not have to engage in any, best practices discussions.
Right.
Brenda, you think of a 50-cent word, but I won't use it because I can't think of it. Okay, Doug, do you want to make a comment?
That's the fob, you'll have a code too.
Yeah. Okay,
So that's going to happen then, correct?
yes.
We're talking just board members
Yeah, that's it.
and volunteers.
Well, volunteers are already taken. There's a policy
And they have access to the police side
yeah,
and they're CJ certified.
yes.
We're not CJ certified,
we're not getting to the police side, the private side.
but if through this door here, it goes right into the secure side.
We go in this other door.
It just goes, so we'd only have to
We
go,
won't have access to that door.
just the one by the
other
other.
door.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we would not have access to that side.
3 doors.
Through Michelle's office, you'll have access to the police department.
That's true.
But Michelle's office is locked if she's not in it, and I'm not going to test whether she throws a mean elbow or not. So, I think that's controllable. Are you okay with that? Okay.
Are you talking to me? Sorry.
No, I was talking to police chief.
Oh, okay,
Are you okay with it? Mindy?
great,
Okay,
great.
there you go.
You're the one at risk because we can walk right to your office and press our nose right up against that glass, and it's not fog, so you can see us.
We
So
don't
does
have any
this
money to
mean,
fog it.
Her back door, like her exit door, right?
Yeah.
That she had,
Oh, her secret spot.
Yeah.
does this mean we
Right
have
in.
access to the gyms?
No, we do, well, you have access to the gym, and if you would like to wave to somebody in the gym, we do that, but as board members, no, we do not have access to the facilities. And as much as it's a cool gym, let's let the staff use it.
The Sharks, pretty nice.
Yeah. All right, any further discussion on this? And, we can figure out when we want to do implementation on this. I don't think it needs to be in it. Okay, but I'll work with you on that. We will probably also just have it won't need to be signed, but we'll probably also just have this written down as an understanding. I'm not going to require signs and copies kept and other things like that. We're all big kids. Especially since I'd be the one that would forget to sign it. All right, where are we? Item 12, April 2025 unaudited financials. You got these in front of you, or did you just memorize them, Mindy?
No, I've got them I've got my iPad here. I'm ready. I'm prepared. So, there's just a lot of fighter jets going by, and so that's making me a little nervous, but I'm sure it's fine. So the financials.
If it's more than 6, it's a problem. If it's 6, it's training.
I'm hoping that the air thing doesn't go down, because it sounds like it went down in Denver today too. So hopefully it'll be fine. So the financials, so the one thing, we did not get the ambulance receivables in time. So you'll see that that's at a 0, and it'll just be twice as much for next month. But really, you know, it's all pretty standard stuff. I mean, we've been talking about the year-end financials, so there's nothing really crazy. So we've only got 2 months left of this fiscal year. So that puts the percent at what's 10 divided by 12. I didn't do that.
About 85 or 86, probably.
Right. Okay. So, so if we look at the year-end financials, you know, obviously police is way under, for salary savings. For the financials, utilize those rules. So you'll see in yellow if it's anything above what that 85%. So, we have in the fire, financials as a percentage of budget, it is kind of right on track, a little over. That's the overtime, that's over, which obviously for the conflict reimbursements, that revenue's in the revenue column. But overtime is trending a little over without those conflict reimbursements, for fire anyway. And then to move down to bike patrol, you'll see, you know, we're kind of getting to the higher end of um, that fund. And as you know, that kind of starts over July 1. So it's split between the summer split between 2 fiscal years. But the uniforms were a little higher, Chief. Chief, I mean, he's been here all of like 2 weeks, but I believe they are just getting set and ready for bike patrol. And it was just a little bit more than they had assumed. But overall, the budget's totally fine because, you know, we've had so much salary savings from only having 2 bike patrol last summer, and it only needs to get us through till June 30th. Admin salaries, those are over. Admin salaries are over a little bit because we've got some overlap with Brittany and Dana to do some training. And like I mentioned earlier, Dana, when she was doing police executive assistant, when Katie left, I just kept it, you know, coming out of my budget. So that's where that overage is from.
So what's Dana's new retirement date? And this is retirement number 17 or 18?
I think this one's real because she went to St. Thomas last week, and I think it was finally like, okay, I'm ready to be done, which is good. I mean, we want her to enjoy retirement. So June 5th is now her final date, she says.
Okay.
So, as far as 715, you know, we seem to be doing well as far as the budget for that. 716, the fire equipment came in. That's why that percentage is so high, because we spent $170,000 last month. So when you divide out the budget, you know, it looks really high, but really that was within budget, other than that $39.20. And so we'll get that corrected. And then Chief Rassick, I think there's a few other pieces for police as far as auto equipment. So Chief, if you wouldn't mind connecting with Beck and seeing kind of where we're at and just making sure we're on target for the correct amounts, that would be great if you wouldn't mind doing that. Because we still have we're waiting on a few things. But otherwise, I believe Chief Bjorvik, I think that your truck and everything is done and paid for. Is that correct?
Yeah, everything except the upfit.
Okay, so it looks like you've got auto fire, yeah, and I think Heather's keeping track of this too, but it looks like you got about $7,600 left in that. But Chief Rassick, you've got about 43,000. So just curious where that's at, and making sure that doesn't come in over budget would be great. And then to move down to 717, we've talked about that in great length already. So, so overall, and then you'll see the year-end projections. You know, we look to have a net surplus, so we look to be in good shape. If anybody has any questions.
The one I know that I know that I know some property taxes continue to trickle in, but I'm a little surprised we're only at 96 on our property tax estimates.
Yeah, yeah. So, yeah, and I don't, you know, I don't know what, you know, the explanation on that. You know, I think we hope for 97, I think is where we're at. So, you know,
Well,
for 2 months.
You hope for you hope for 97%. The county said, advises a budget of either 96 or 97% of 100%,
Right.
on property tax collections, because there's always delinquencies. And in fact, we are ahead on prior year collections.
Yep.
But that 96 number is 96% of the 96% that we were expecting. And so, I don't think there's any additional, like, quarterly or third payments or anything that are scheduled to come in. So what that says is, overall property tax payments aren't coming in. I don't think you've checked with the county, because I didn't notice it until now. I can call county and see if they're seeing the same thing, or whether it's just some weird anomaly that we're not getting the pass through yet. But that's just weird to me.
Yeah, it's pretty, and then also just, I mean, to kind of balance that out, the prior year tax collections is more, what we assumed by about 20%. So yeah, I'd be curious. I can also ask Dan or Cam about that when I get back, but that is then something that's not in our favor that potentially we need to look at with budget for fiscal year 27 is, do we need to even ratchet that down a little bit more?
Yeah, that's my long-term concern. So, don't sweat it. I'll actually follow through with that. You can do your appropriate, cruising, and I'll give you the answer when you get back.
Okay.
Other questions for Administrator Holliday on finances? We would need a motion to approve the April 2025 unaudited financials.
Moved.
We have a motion and a second. Okay, actually, let's give the second to Bill. He's been quiet. So we have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? If not, I will call for the vote. Director Hepburn?
Yes.
Director Kelly?
Yes.
Director Shoemaker?
Yes.
Director Ralston?
Yep.
Chair votes yes, motion passes. And we're on to Lucky 13, review of the April 2025 SROA board meeting minutes. That's been Randy.
Yep, I'll do this quick then, since it's almost been 2 hours. Our remodel of the building is supposed to be done mid-June, and it's come along great, so that's good news there. We also had a discussion in April about the Nature Center contract. We give them money and help them because they help us, and they're gonna do a remodel on the observatory and the Nature Center, and they also help us obviously with Project Ponderosa by Plant Tree. You've also probably all heard that we're switching to online voting. People can still request paper ballots if you wanted, and our nominating committee has come up with 5 candidates, including 1 re-up for the vote this year. And one thing, you guys are involved with the Pathway Safety Task Force. Hopefully it's going to be done in June. And it's been nice, it's going more to education and communication rather than enforcement. There were some people who first wanted to go more into enforcement. It's more appropriate to go the other way, which is good. There was also a presentation, as I'm sure you guys are all aware, about the firearm discharge zones in Sun River. Something that actually I didn't realize. It's kind of very interesting how it has never been addressed before, and it's just because Sun River's been around a long time before people thought about that. So it's something that is being looked at by some of these citizens in Sun River, trying to put it through. And the question is, how much can and should SROA support this? Obviously some support, but how much do we do is a big question. And lastly, there was a discussion about smoke policy for our workers at like the Shark, especially the kids during the summer, and having to shut down. And some people were unhappy because when the smoke gets for the safety of the lifeguards, we got to shut down. But that's a good policy and it's going to stay in effect. So that's a short. Anybody have any questions?
It's kind of apropos of nothing, but since it's constantly brought back to you, is there a standard response that you're giving to the people asking what SRA is going to be doing about golf?
Well, I golfed 9 holes this morning. I'm the only guy on the board that's a golfer, so I've been involved with this quite a bit.
It's are we all okay? Yeah.
Some of it's like, people talk about it affecting the rental companies. Well, that's really nothing that we can, none of our business in some ways. The rental companies so far don't seem to be too concerned. And as far as, there was some effort to try to get something from the resort to give some people who are owners here some sort of access at some point, but they are just putting their feet down. And they're a private company. There's people that want us to try to penalize them as a board, but they pay their dues more than any of the rest of us.
Say they are a homeowner, they do.
Our homeowner, yeah, you know, they pay for the past more than you and I do. So it's one of those. Like, breathe out, move on, I guess.
Like I say, curious more than anything else. I mean,
Yeah, I know. That's why I didn't bring it up before, because it doesn't really apply to you guys very much.
it hasn't kept at least one of our directors off the golf course, that's for sure.
Well, you know, if I have a guest over and they want to play golf, they can't. That sucks.
That's what I talked, yeah, if you're not a member, if you're not a golfer, I can take a guest. Because I paid all this money.
So you just have to be nice to either Randy or John.
It's, we can talk more about it.
I'm not gonna make it.
I mean, not to unearth the can of worms, and I'm expecting that you're gonna continue to hear about this.
And I totally understand. We're not very happy with it either. Not much that we can do as a board, either legally or appropriately.
And then, no, I guess that was really my only question. Like I said, it was more curiosity than thanks.
We'll talk more about them later.
All right. Other questions for Randy? In terms of other business, I will note, we don't think we have officially set the date yet. And I was looking through my mail and didn't immediately find it, but we did agree that we would have a not necessarily a joint meeting, an official joint meeting, although we will probably notice it so that we can have a quorum if we want. But we are going to have a joint meeting or a meeting with the Lapine Fire Board. It will be led by Chief Boos. I for sure will be there. Everybody else is invited. What I'll do is I'll make sure that we get the date locked down. It will be probably the morning of their board meeting, which is, I can't remember if they meet on Thursdays as well. Yeah, sorry, I wasn't looking at you. I was just kind of looking out in the distance. But I'll get you the date on it. It's funny that I can't remember it. I've been down to about 4 of them now. But we'll get that out. Their meeting is typically 9 to about 11. We would probably then just use that time after to meet for an hour or two. It's really, we set up an agenda. It's really kind of discussing mutual coverage, mutual aid, discussions on some of the resources that they don't have that they're very interested in, understanding use of. Ladder truck came up yesterday even. And yeah, and just, other things that might be interested to come up. So I'll send out the note on the date, time, and then the proposed agenda that we have. And yeah, you may attend it as your interest, but it will be before next month's board meeting. So we will have a report on it at the board meeting.
Chair, it's June 12th, Thursday,
June
June 12th.
Thank you. And that is not the date of our board meeting. Ours would be the next week.
Yeah, and so just so everybody knows, the board meeting is, the next board meeting is June 19th, which is actual federal holiday. But just because we've already publicized that our board meetings are always the third Thursday of the month, we were just going to keep that, and the chiefs were okay with that and available. So we'll just keep that as June 19th, and then the chiefs and I will take off the 20th as our holiday then.
So it'll be an echoey building that day, but we will be holding a
It'll
board
be an
meeting.
equity building.
We should ask, it is a federal holiday. Does anybody on the board have concerns about having a board meeting on June 19th?
No.
No, I think I saw that it's being recognized actually the day after Friday. So they give a 3-day
Three-day
holiday.
weekend, yeah.
Right.
Oh, okay.
Either way, so our next board meeting will be on the 19th. We will have a report on the June 12th Lapine Fire meeting. Should be an exciting morning, just so you know. Additional business that should come in front of, this board. Seeing none, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Well, this gentleman came is
Hey, stranger, how you doing?
I'm a past board member. I was still running on the old schedule of 3 to 5 instead of 1 to 3.
that's what I thought.
My brother's remodeling his house over here, so I kind of made a all-day trip out of it. So
Yeah. Does everybody know Greg? Oh,
Greg Keller, I was on a number of years ago,
yes.
pre-COVID.
We're actually just talking about that old board, a little bit ago. Ron Schmidt was in here and we were having a chat about it.
Oh, nice, yeah.
Yeah. It's, all right, so we can kibitz with Greg afterwards, but, I would entertain a motion to adjourn otherwise.
Move.
Second.
Motion and a second, any discussion? Go ahead. Director Hepburn,
Yes.
Director Kelly,
Yes.
Director Shoemaker,
Yes.
Director Alston.
Yep.
Chair votes yes, motion passes, we are adjourned.
Almost abstained.
Safe travels, Mindy.
Thank you.
There.
Yeah.
Guys.
Have a good travel.
It wasn't one to see the new.
Bye, man.